to these reservations was constantly on the move. My tribe moved around and followed the buffalo and the bison. And basically what we do with the buffalo and the bison is we would obviously hunt them down, and we would use them not only for a good source of food, but for clothing and for our teepees, which we used to, because we traveled so much, we had to have a quick and easy house that we could just tear down easily and then set up camp once we settled down. So we use these teepees with the buffalo skins that we use, and we put them on there to help us keep warm and help us to travel fast and easy. We also used rabbit skins, and we used feathers to decorate our heads. With traveling a lot, we often ran into a lot of tribes, a lot of tribal lands as we traveled. So we often would have to settle disputes in the forms of treaties, but also in the form of wars if we didn't come to an agreement. And how we communicated with these tribes was we learned multiple languages at a younger age. And but as time progressed, we eventually developed a sign language which helped us communicate with the other tribes, making it easier to communicate. But oftentimes it never came to a war. We often just settled treaties and we went about our way with everybody. So this move has not only changed where we live, but it's changed how we live in our way of life. With Americans hunting around our land, it's made it a lot more difficult to find buffalo and rabbit and things like that, because prior to this, how we found our food was we followed the herds of buffalo. We followed them, and we would hunt them down, obviously, and use them to make food and clothes, like I previously stated. But it's just become a lot more difficult to adjust to this, because that's what we've always known. But it hasn't just affected the food and the clothing for us. We've affected our community, because we've gone into poverty. The housing was very limited, and they've spread out our land on the reservations to where we're far apart. And the biggest impact it's had on us is it's been difficult to maintain our culture and our religion in these reservations, being in these hard times. With our culture, we have learned to plant a lot of crops which will help us, live, such as beans, corn, potatoes, tomatoes, squash, peppers, nuts, melons, things of that nature, which we would harvest up in the fall. But when summertime would hit, obviously we would go hunt out for the buffalo and for the clothes and things that we need to keep warm. But a ritual that is unique to our culture is called the sun dance, which always has to do with the sun and nature. But what we do is it would force people in our community to give up something that they believe is very valuable to them for the benefit of our entire community. So our economic system was pretty much based on a process that is typically accomplished by just finding forms of labor and in hopes that it would create new kinds of products that would help make our lives a lot easier. An example would be just kind of the transition from hunting to gathering, having to gather crops, having to learn to adjust to, harvesting them a lot more often, and to transition to rely on our agriculture. So the Dawes Act was another big blow to the gut for us. It was absolutely devastating because it decreased landowners by Indians more than half and opened up more land for white settlers and railroads. So at this moment in time, we're thinking we're just less important right here, and kind of felt devalued, not like as people. But much of the reservation land that we had wasn't even good farmland. It was really hard to grow crops and things like that, and we couldn't afford the supplies to even harvest it as well. It was very frustrating to have very weak land and not even enough money to even buy stuff to help us out. And that was just another moment in time that really just made it hard on us. So the Trail of Tears is pretty much a time when we were moving westward, and we were moving westward for 1,600 miles on rugged land on foot. It was truly it was excruciating pain, just constantly getting stuff in our feet and got weak. But as we kept going, as time passed, we got weaker and weaker, and we had to survive on little to no food as well as water. And some of us died from, it went from as far from starvation to sickness and disease and things of that nature. And it was really just devastating time. And I even lost some family members from that time, and it was just a really, really bad time. Thank you so much for just coming on this journey with me and letting me teach you guys about our culture and kind of what life was like with the adjustments that we had to make, because it was not easy by any means having to move to these reservations and things like that. So I just wanted to say I'm very blessed